Hello, my friends. This is an update on our predictions for the Ukraine war. I'm making this video on November 13th. There has been a sudden change in the momentum of the war around November 11, and we get the feeling of it continuing today. And it's exactly as predicted. These forecasts for the Ukraine war, they're unbelievable. It's just amazing how consistently this is working. So here's the forecast that I made shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th. And I have a graph here of the predictions that I made back in March, shortly after the war began, of how the war would evolve. And my prediction was that if the war lasted up until November, because nobody knew at the time, at least I didn't. I'm not a political expert. Is this going to be over in a few weeks? What's going to happen? We don't know. But I said, if the war continues into November, suddenly Russia becomes very strong around September and October. And then by early November, Russia's strength weakens. Now, this is regardless of your opinion about the war or anything else, just a statement of what will happen. And I predicted back in March, and I've got it highlighted in yellow, a quote: Russia is likely to claim parts of eastern Ukraine as parts of Russia in September and October and reassert its position in late February and early March. Exactly what happened is in September, October, during this peak time, exactly the prediction. Now, amazingly, as this huge time period of about 2 months ends in early November, exactly what's predicted is happening. The strength of Russia is decreasing. So what happened in September and October is that there was the destruction of Ukraine's power grid, where 30 to 40 to 50% of the power grid was down in many cities. The use of drones made in Iran was devastating. We didn't see people foreseeing what would happen with this destruction. Russia came back very strong, conscripted many new people. And then we see people like, I've got a typo here, Tulsi Gabbard, Russell Brand, and others showing that this is, or I don't want to take sides with this, but giving strong arguments, getting support for the idea that this is not just a one-sided war, there's two sides to the story. We need to look at this more carefully and historically. So we see some eroding of the confidence of the West in September and October. We're being told how Russia's military is such a huge failure, how people are leaving Russia, but Ukraine is suffering and the war is at a stalemate. Then what happens? In late November, here we zoom into the graph to look more specifically at this time period. And to show more clearly, I've got in a big red circle this time period when Russia's strength is strong. And look at this, November 1st is around the end of this. And if we zoom in even more, so let's zoom in even more, because November 11th and 12th is the first big breakthrough for the Ukraine. It's been a half a year of a stalemate with the borders, the line of fighting, moving back and forth a little bit during that time period. Ukraine made big advances in removing Russian influence in the northern part of Ukraine early on. But for the last 6 months, it's been a brutal stalemate with lots of suffering all over the country. Now that suffering will continue, but there's been a bright light for Ukraine on November 11th, and celebrations continuing to the 12th, and even today, which is the 13th. And we can look at some of the news. Here's the news from Al Jazeera. On November 12th, people singing, celebrating into the night in Kherson. Kherson was recaptured around November 11th. This is a huge celebration and victory, showing how the people are so happy and celebrating, more pictures of celebration from NBC News. So all of a sudden, we're seeing a glimpse of light from the Ukrainian side, a glimpse of disappointment, we would assume from the Russian side, that they have actually given up on that, on taking over the large, important city of Kherson. Now, it's a small victory, but it is a victory for Ukraine, the first that's been seen in a long time. Now, whether you're pro-Ukraine, pro-Russia, whatever your views are, I think we can agree on how the war is developing. And what I've done astrologically is simply describe it without any emphasis on what my point of view is, or ethically or morally, or who's right. Just the fact that we predicted very accurately the progress of the war and what happened. So there it is, November 11th and 12th, exactly as the graph shows. So there's a zoom in of the graph, and we've got a circle over here on the right. Kherson returns back to Ukraine's control just as the time period ends. So there we have it, my friends. That is the forecast that we made, how the momentum has shifted, how things have changed. Now, for the future, we can continue to make more forecasts about what will happen, but the main thing I would like to emphasize here is that with political forecasting of any kind, you don't have control groups. You can't repeat the war over again. So any kind of political forecasting is not scientifically rigorous, but we want to apply our ideas to politics so we can better understand what's going on. And by the way, this is just the forecast of what happens, which ended up being extremely true. When you understand the vibrational astrology, what's going on, you can develop much better strategies. If we could consult world leaders on what's going on, we can help improve their strategies, because we see the dynamics, we see the meaning of what's going on, and we're able to make accurate predictions. But the real power of vibrational astrology, let me see if I've got some slides here. I'm not sure if I do. It looks like I've got something messed up here, but whoops. Sorry about that. Let me bring this back. I think I've got it here. Yes, I've got it here. So, as I say here on the slide, no amount of successful political predictions is likely to convince some people that vibrational astrology is helpful. However, we have support for vibrational astrology and research on databases. We've duplicated the research. We've described this in books. And because you cannot replicate historical and political events, and you cannot create control groups, it's just to show the application of the ideas. If you want to see the more rigorous developments and scientific advancement in vibrational astrology, we have the big important book, The Astrology of Bipolar Disorder, Scientific Breakthrough. We have the development of the Academic Research Institute, Cosmobiology Institute at cosmobiology.org. We have the annual conference on vibrational astrology in Gainesville, Florida. Lots happening for those of you who want to see that this is a fully academic, evidence-based field of inquiry. It's a new field, very different from anything else. We're not even sure we should call it astrology. It's built on astrological ideas, but very fresh, very exciting. And this analysis of the Ukraine war is really just to show how these ideas can be applied effectively in that context of world events. So there it is, my friends. Another update on the Ukraine war. I think this will be my last one. We can continue to make political forecasts from Hero Kingdom Come. They're very accurate, but most of our energy is focused on things that we can replicate, where we can validate, where we can get statistical analysis, you might say more hardcore use of vibrational astrology that creates a solid foundation for it. And then people can continue to move on and apply vibrational astrology to many areas, including world events. This is just to show that this application of vibrational astrology to world events works. It works very consistently, very accurately, And we put those forecasts out way ahead of time, going out on a limb with actually very little astrological information. We don't even have the birth chart for Putin and some of the other world leaders involved, Zelensky, etc. But from a little bit of information, we were able to make extraordinarily accurate forecasts. Very exciting stuff. So thank you very much for listening, my friends. God bless. Namaste.